What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of the Oscars, the podcast that takes a look at the 2023 Oscars 24 minutes at a time. I'm Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are heading to the barn to talk about the pros and cons of Sarah Polley's Women Talking. Spoiler alert, not a ton of cons.
Basically, nothing. Excellent film. I personally just adored this movie. So I'm really stoked that we got to talk about it with a wonderful guest. Do nothing, stay and fight, or leave. In 2010, the women of an isolated religious community grapple with reconciling a brutal reality with their faith. Obviously, this is one of the 10 that is nominated for Best Picture. We have just a stellar conversation with Rachel Leishman on this episode of the pod. She is from the Podro Pascal podcast and the Mary Sue. Just a delightful time talking about Letterboxd, talking about Women Talking. She represented all women of the whole world on our pod.
Yeah,
so
whether she wanted to or not, she did.
A lot of pressure on her end. She did very, very well. A lot of Babylon slander, as per usual. So we're just keeping with the times here. But first, before we do that, we've got some quick Oscars power rankings to do because neither of us had seen this movie. So I feel like our power rankings have changed a little bit, Ben. Changed about what is possible here for the Best Picture winners, for the Best Picture nominees. You wanna stay in fashion and go first with your power rankings, Ben?
Yeah, I'd love to. As I'm watching these, I'm updating my rankings. So I still have not seen All Quiet on the Western Front or Triangle of Sadness. So those two are basically at the bottom right now.
I'm hyped for Triangle of Sadness, dude. I'm hyped for you to watch that movie.
I mean, I am too. And I thought that would be the one that kind of like shot up the rankings, but this Women Talking actually did more than I thought. So my top four stay the same. Everything Everywhere, Banshees, Fabelmans, and Elvis. Like those are my top four. But now, taking over for Tar's Women Talking at number 5. And after sitting with it for a while longer, I actually bumped up Avatar: The Way of Water.
Yeah, wow.
And then Tar. And then I've got Top Gun Maverick at the bottom. This isn't a reflection about how much I enjoy that movie because I love Top Gun Maverick so much. I'm kind of just going off of a mix of what I hope wins and what I think will win. So, Women Talking went from 10th last week to 5th this week. So it was give you a little idea of what we thought or what I thought about it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I feel like I'm in the same boat as you. I think my power rankings are definitely a mix of like what I think will win, but also being a little bit hopeful about what I want to win and what I hope like sees maybe a late surge or people kind of start to get behind. My top 4 are the same as well from last week. So I've got Everything Everywhere All at Once at number 1, Banshees of Inisherin number 2, number 3 is Tar. I still hold fast on the fact that a lot of the Academy members are going to like Tar. It's probably too artsy to win, but a lot of people are going to like it, I feel like. And then the Fabelmans at 4. I still have Elvis at 5. There's something, and Ben, you love Elvis. There's just something magical about Elvis where people are just like, that movie was a great time. Like people just love it. And so I'm really, I feel like that energy will persist. And the Academy has seen Austin Butler give speeches. They probably want to see him give more speeches. So
before he loses the Elvis voice, they got to capitalize on it,
Exactly. They got to rope the viewers in somehow. So I feel like that still has a good shot. I've got Women Talking at number 6. I think if anything is going to see a late stage push, I think it's Women Talking. I think even though Sarah Polley did not get nominated for Best Director, which we go into in our conversation with Rachel, which is just a fucking travesty, honestly. Like, there's just no other way to put it. I think she definitely should have been nominated. I still think Women Talking could see a bump, and I'm really hopeful that it does. I just really I just don't want this wonderful movie to fall out of that conversation. I've got Triangle of Sadness at 7, Top Gun Maverick also at 8, which is astounding because I fucking love Top Gun Maverick. Is it a Best Picture winner? No, but I think it's really cool that they nominated it. Avatar: The Way of Water at 9, and then I still have yet to see All Quiet on the Western Front. I believe you and I are probably waiting to see All Quiet until the week that we cover it. We have a cool guest coming on for that pod. I'm going to try and see it in the theater and kind of be more fresh. So I think that'll stay at the bottom of my list for a little bit here. We talk about this a little bit with Rachel, but I'm just curious. Do you think Women Talking could have a push? Like, do you think if a movie's going to have a push, do you think it's that movie? Do you think it's a different one?
I mean, as of right now, yes, I think it could have a push. It also just kind of feels like this isn't like what I think about the movie, but it almost feels like maybe this was like the 10th slot into it. Like almost like, oh, we need to have, a movie directed by a woman. Let's throw this in there. But hopefully after the Academy watched it, they was like, oh, actually, this is like really good, So I think it has the most potential to rise in the rankings, so to speak. But I don't think it's anywhere near close enough to actually win Best Picture. I think the biggest fight, obviously, it has would be for adapted screenplay, but they're going up against Rian Johnson, which is always a tough, thing to do. And I'm also curious if like they're just going to give Top Gun Maverick adapted just because it's like, sorry, we didn't do anything else, but here you go, here's this one. So I don't know, we'll see what happens, but I think if anything, it's adapted that it's got a chance at.
Yeah, here's the thing with Women Talking, and I just feel like it already has a lot stacked against it. Being, inherently, it's directed by a woman, it stars women, and the Academy is not prone to nominating those things in general, and those things still have that kind of tinted light on them when it comes to films, which is just really shitty in general. But it's aptly named. It's literally Women Talking for 100 minutes. The Academy, I just feel like, especially with this slate of 10, I mean, you're looking at movies like Top Gun Maverick and Avatar and All Quiet on the Western Front, which is a war movie. Yes, Banshees of Inisherin is mostly dialogue, but people cut their hands off. Like, shit happens.
Yeah.
Women Talking is just dialogue. It is just 100 minutes of an adapted screenplay, right? It is just literally women talking, and there's not a whole lot of substance that necessarily goes on screen. So I get really worried with a movie like that, especially in the Academy. They have access to all these films through screeners and through apps, like in their home. And we see quotes all the time of like, yeah, I just didn't get around to it. It just didn't sound intriguing. It just wasn't for me. Oh, I had to cook my kids dinner, so I lost interest. Like, the craziest batshit stupid fucking reasons for not caring for a film when you're literally in the Academy.
Yeah, and save that shit for Babylon. Like, don't do that to Women
God
Talking.
damn it.
Like,
don't bring that energy in here, Ben. Don't bring that energy in here, man. I just feel like it's just already at a disadvantage, and the Academy puts it even more at a disadvantage. So I'm really hopeful that it sees some traction. I just don't really know if it will. I did read a tweet today, though, that Netflix doing a lot of pushing and for your consideration ads, especially in LA for All Quiet on the Western Front, which makes sense, right? Like, that's their only film in the race here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm really curious how all this shakes out, and how we see this all go down in the next 33 days at time of recording, right? I mean,
yeah.
We're getting close. We're getting very close, Ben. Do you have any other thoughts? Any other Power Rankings thoughts? Best Picture thoughts? You're coming out to see me for the first time for the Oscars. Are you excited? I hope you're excited.
I'm stoked, man. I haven't been to Portland since, it's been a very long time. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, it's crazy talking about this movie because like the cast is so stacked. Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jesse Buckley, Frances McDormand, and Ben Whishaw. Like, it's like we have a great cast here, and it's just nuts that like it's not really talked about. It doesn't feel like it's talked about very much, but it's almost like, it's like, who do you nominate when you have like so many great people in this, and that can just like cause its own problems. But it obviously everyone's about to listen to our review on it. I think it's a recommend from both of us. It's worth checking out. It's honestly probably something I wouldn't have gotten to if we weren't doing this. So it's just another reason that I'm really glad that we're covering all these movies. So a big recommend from both of us.
Yeah, very hard recommend for me as well. And, that's kind of the boat that we're in with Best Picture nominees this year. I feel like are very, very heavy on the crowd pleaser factor of like, even though not a lot of people probably went out of their way to see Triangle of Sadness, they've heard about it. Criterion Collection is already making a movie with it. Like, it is getting that traction, and people are seeing that, and it is on VOD and all these things already. Interestingly enough, Women Talking not on VOD. We are now at day 45 of its theatrical release when we're recording here, And generally a theatrical window is 45 days, and we'll see something go on VOD. So I think that's really fascinating if you're talking about the campaigning aspect of things. Maybe they're just throwing in the towel. Maybe they're just saying, look, it doesn't really matter. Like, we're not going to see a bump anyway, and we're just good enough to be a nominee, which, is a whole different conversation about how these streamers and these studios allow the rights of their movies to be seen when they should be seen, right? I think that was one of the biggest points of The Woman King, right? Like, people just couldn't see it. Even though it's coming to Netflix in like a week, people just didn't see it in time. And if it would have come out a month ago, you would have had massive word of mouth and potentially changed this Best Picture race. So I think there's a lot of play.
Sure.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over these next 4 weeks. We have 4 more wonderful guests. We have 4 more weeks of covering Best Picture. And then we are watching the Oscars, and then we're going right into podcasting.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a super pod, bro. It's gonna be sick. I cannot wait. We're gonna break down the Oscars in full scope. Trust me, it's gonna be the full shebang here on March 12th, the biggest night in Hollywood. But without further ado, our conversation with Rachel Leishman from the Podro Pascal podcast and the Mary Sue, obviously representing women everywhere. The women were talking and we were listening, Ben, and Rachel was here to say great things about women talking. So our conversation with Rachel about women talking. Our coverage of the Oscars Best Picture race continues as we head into week number 6. This is our 6th Best Picture nominee that we have covered here on the podcast. And this week, the women are talking and we're listening. And we have a guest with us to help us complete that mission. We've got Rachel Leishman, the co-host of Podro Pascal podcast and the assistant editor of the Mary Sue, is joining us today. Rachel, welcome to the pod. How are you doing?
Thank you guys for having me. I'm doing well. I'm really excited. The Oscars are my favorite of all the award shows. I love the Oscars. It's the best. It's my favorite to kind of dive into. So I'm excited to be here.
And no pressure at all, but you're here on behalf of all women talking
Of
for
all
them.
women,
So
yeah.
not a big deal whatsoever.
Of
So
all of the women
all women
can and do.
Yeah, this is yours. I will say though, like when you got on, I was stoked to see your Sing Street poster in the background. I was like, okay, we're in for a good time here. So
Yeah, I
I'm
have.
excited.
This is the off Broadway. I'm trying to point to it, which is very hard.
Yeah.
This is the off Broadway Sing Street, and then this is
sweet.
my inside Llewyn Davis. That is very tiny next to the size of the Sing Street.
How was
one.
the off Broadway? Was it good?
I didn't get to see it. I was waiting for it to come to Broadway, and then COVID
Oh damn!
hit.
No.
That's crazy.
My roommate saw it though, and
Nice.
so she bought that one, and then I.
Are you a fan of the movie though? Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
I do like the movie Sing Street.
Perfect.
I feel really left out because I've never seen Sing Street, and I only have heard good things, and I'm just like listening. I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. I don't know.
I agreed to do a pod with you, and you haven't seen Sing Street. I can't.
You
gotta
drive it like you stole it.
Yeah, come on, man.
You would get that reference.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
All right, after this pod, immediately I'm watching Sing Street. I have seen Inside Llewyn Davis, so I can vouch for that. That's a great poster. Rachel, you already mentioned a little bit about the Oscars being your favorite award show. I'm curious, do you have a history with the show? We kind of ask all of our guests as they come on to try to feel out, where they stand on the Oscars. Did you watch last year? Do you try to watch all the Best Picture nominees? What's your relationship with the Oscars?
So I've watched the actual ceremony, I think, my whole life. I don't think I've ever missed one. The way my mom was a buyer for fashion. So she watched all of the award shows to see what people were wearing and like to see kind of the trends there. And I watched all of the award shows because I loved movies and TV.
Yeah.
So we were watching them for 2 different reasons, but and she'd be like, I don't understand this movie. And then I would explain the movie to her or like explain like what was going on. So I have always just kind of like kept up with award shows, kept up with media and what was going on. There are aspects of the Oscars that I'm not as well versed in. Like I don't typically I try and watch as many of the short films as I can find or the foreign language films or what have you, or international films is there now. I try and find them, but I make sure in most of the major acting and movie categories if I haven't seen all of them, I try to see them by the time the ceremony rolls around. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot better about trying to see everything.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, it'd be like, what's best picture? Okay, let me go watch these movies.
Yeah, watch that one thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That.
So that means you've seen After Sun, is that correct?
Yes. I
Where
just
do you
watched
say-
After Sun a couple weeks ago, I think, at this point.
Okay, I need a quick tangent because I got to know where you stand on After Sun. Where are you on the Paul Mescal hype train here?
Oh, I love him. And I think that movie is devastating. Like, and I wasn't
Absolutely.
expecting that.
Yeah.
Like, I was like
Yeah.
not expecting
Yep.
to like. I saw someone say like it was some tweet that was like, if you ever want to see me just instantly cry, and it was him opening up the camera at like the very end of that movie.
Oh my God.
And I was
no.
like, oh no.
Got me.
Yeah, I was surprised by how much I didn't think I was gonna dislike After Sun. It was one of those that was like not on my radar that much. It was like, yes, this is a movie I would like to eventually watch. And I was shocked at how much I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Nice.
it is devastating. Ben has a really good review of After Sun on Letterboxd, so anybody listening, go seek out Ben's Letterboxd. It is absolutely sublime. Yeah, Rachel, pull it up while we're here. I read it last night for the first time, and I was just
I'll pull up. Ben, what's your Letterboxd?
Immaculate.
It's just this is Benny Burrito.
Okay, it's what your thing is. Okay.
Yeah.
If Letterboxd has literally died.
Oh no. Of course.
Oh,
right?
no.
Oh, there it just went up. Okay, hold on.
Ben, is that why you wait so long to put the movies on Letterboxd so you can come up with a really innovative review?
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm like, I gotta wait for the perfect response. Like, when someone says something and the next day you thought of it, like, I should have said this. So I just wait.
The classic George Costanza, huh?
No, that really just kind of like came to me as I was finally catching up on my Letterboxd list. I was like, I need to get this one in there for Ethan because, you kind of sold me on it.
Would you like me to read it out loud?
Sure,
yes,
tear it
do
up.
it.
Watching this movie is like when you take an edible. Nothing happens for 20 minutes and you think you got a dud. And then it kicks in so hard you can't really function. Except the edible is just sadness. And 20 minutes later is the next day, sitting at your desk at work. Charlotte Wells, you will be hearing from my lawyer. No one makes me cry my own tears at work. Yeah, that is very accurate. Like, I finished that movie and was like,
great?
I was like, this is a good movie. And then the more I think about After Sun, I'm like, I'm in pain.
Yeah, exactly.
Just pain.
That's what it was. Like, I was watching it knowing, like, obviously we do like an A24 pod and talk about our favorites, and all year it's been Everything Everywhere. And then Ethan watches this. He's like, it's my number one of the year. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and I didn't watch it at that time. So I was like, holy shit, what is this movie? And I watch it and I'm just like, I'm watching it under the lens of like, man, this is Ethan's favorite of the year. Like, okay, like it's good, like it's a well done movie. Then really the next day at work, I was just like, God damn it, Ethan. Like I was just so fucking sad thinking about it. It's like, that's such a good movie. It just didn't hit me that night. I needed to sleep on it. And then I was like, God damn, this movie's so good.
I do like that you genuinely rate movies. My Letterboxd, my entire bit is that every movie gets 5 stars unless it offends me.
Oh, okay.
Like, unless it's offensive or I'm just so angry at it, then it gets 0 stars.
Nice.
But
wow.
The only movie that got 4 was I knocked off 1 for The Last Jedi because of the blue titty milk. I believe in my review, it literally says -1 for the blue titty milk.
That's totally fair. Yeah.
And so I left it at 4.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I put thought into it, and other times I watch the Batman. I just do like the shrug emoji. I'm like, I don't know. It was fine. It's like, whatever.
Oh, I have a whole rule about Letterboxd. They all have to be jokes because I hate when people are like, here's my full review. No. If I want to read your full review, I
feel
will
attacked
read it
right now.
somewhere on the internet.
This is tough.
Coming after Ethan.
Sorry. All of
This
my
is tough.
reviews are like a sentence.
I
longer, it's a joke.
I tried that initially. I was like, when I was first getting really into Letterboxd, I was like, okay, I got to be like witty. I got to be funny. This is like the Letterboxd thing. And I just like wasn't. I just like couldn't do it. And I was like, well, I guess here we are. I guess I'm the guy that's just writing 3 paragraphs about a movie. Except I did watch Magic Mike XXL last night, and it was like 2 sentences. I was like, this movie fucking is awesome. I think I said, why does the final 20 minutes of this movie go so hard? And I was like, that's it. I won. And
there
I'm done with the comical reviews. Okay, so Ben, I want you to see Babylon, and I want to know what your Letterboxd review is of Babylon. That's going to be fascinating.
I mean, based on Rachel's response there.
What was that face? This is terrible. I bring up Babylon every episode just to like put out feelers, and I get attacked every time. Every single time.
Here's the thing about Babylon. Every person how did you watch Babylon?
I saw it in a theater with 3 other people that were very far away from me. And so when they did the initial like, hey, welcome to the cinema, we're so glad to have you here and enjoy this with a big energetic crowd, I laughed very heartily. And then I just enjoyed it pretty much by myself for 3 hours.
You saw it twice, though, right?
I did see it twice in
theaters?
theaters. Yes.
You spent 6 hours with this movie.
I would have spent 9 or 12, bro.
My hot take about Babylon is everyone I've talked to who watched it at home was like, I had a great time. And most of the people I've talked to who saw it in a theater were like, I hated this movie. I didn't hate it, but I also did not love it. I would have loved if I could pause it, if I could go get some snacks, if I could go do what I wanted.
I get that.
Do
like, a little intermission. I get that.
Yeah, which feels for a movie like Babylon, where it's all like the movies, it feels wrong. Like it feels like that movie should make me want to see it in the movie theater, but it does not.
I just want to clarify that your preferred way to watch this is when you can stop it. Is that correct? Am I hearing you correctly? Like, I just want to make sure I'm putting the pieces together. So, okay,
when
good.
I can stop Babylon,
then we're a thumbs up.
Perfect.
God,
perfect.
Ben's power grows stronger and stronger. The anti-Babylon hive keeps growing. What are we doing? Okay, enough.
It was also like, sorry, it was like also one of those things where like me and my friends did not know how long this movie was, and my friend leaned forward and went, "This movie is over 3 hours long." And me and my other friend were like, "What the fuck are you talking? Like, what do you mean it's over 3 hours long?" And so then the whole movie, we were like,
"You're trying to time."
You were predisposed. Like what the heck?
I'm like, it's been an hour. We're
this
still
is
in
terrible.
Babylon.
Look, I pre-ordered the 4K Steelbook. This is where we're at, and I feel happy about that. Okay, I feel happy. That it brought me a lot of joy when I did it, and when I receive it, can't wait. I will DM you, Rachel, and I'll be like, "Look, it's a glorious day over here in Ethan's house. We're living it up."
Party, we can do it. You know,
live watch along. Every 5 minutes, a hard stop on Babylon.
I need a break.
All right, we are here to talk about women talking. Unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, this is a great film, but I could talk about Babylon for 3 hours probably. This is based on a novel of the same name by Miriam Toews that came out in 2018. A very quite famed and established book for being so new. And we are here to review it, to talk about it. I saw it a few days ago. Ben, I know you just saw it. You saw it this afternoon. You're fresh. Yeah. And as per usual, like, we haven't talked about it. But Rachel, we're going to let you review the movie first, because you are here on behalf of all women. So we need to know before I say anything and before Ben goes in, I need to know, what did you think of Women Talking? Where are you at?
I am right now going to pull up my Letterboxd review, because I believe my hashtag is great for it. Little Women is not the movie I want. I love Little Women. You're perfect. But I wrote, insert Saoirse Ronan saying women here. So it is, I was referencing Little Women. And then my review is simply the one good man, Ben Whishaw.
Yes.
And I think I also put I'd be the lady trying to talk about horses, because there was that one lady who
Can
I
tell you about
I want to talk about my 2 horses.
Yeah.
She's horse all the time. I watched this a couple months ago because I did the press junket for it, and so I talked to Claire, and my brain is half broken. I can't think of I talked to a lot of the cast for it, but I liked it. I had no idea that the twist was that it was about a cult, and these women were. It was like in 2000, I think, 10.
Yeah, that's when the census was. Yeah,
was the year that they were like, "This is the census." I was like,
"What is going on?
What are you doing?"
Yeah,
I could vote. What are you all doing? I was voting in elections at that point. But it's really good. I think there was controversy not that long ago, because someone didn't realize it was a true story about these women who did get kind of stuck in this cult. But I like the movie as a whole. I think it's a really good, just kind of one setting piece of film, and just it's named aptly. It's called Women Talking, and it is essentially just women talking.
Yeah.
Yep.
But in a way that you're never bored. I do like the use of Ben Whishaw in this movie, because it shows how these women have been mistreated by the men in this society or the colony, I think it's called, that they live in. and that he is the one who is willing to like write down what they need to do and like explain to them kind of like what it says, since none of them can read. They've all just been drugged and abused. And I think as a whole, like, it gets the point across in a way where you keep watching, even though you're like, oh, okay, like, where's this going? What's going on? What's going to happen next? I do love, like, I don't love it. It's very sad. But like when the kind of catalyst for why some of these characters then want to leave, I like how it's formatted.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of like, oh no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And then someone points out like, you can save your child from this. And then they're like, yeah, you're right. I do want to leave because I can't have her go through this again or whatnot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like hard to like not break down every single thing about this movie when reviewing it, because it's like everything I'm like, yeah, this part was fine, but then it pays off when you get to like these three other things. But I liked it a lot. I think Sarah Polley did a great job with a movie that could have been very boring, but was not.
Yeah, easily. It could be a tough thing to do, kind of a movie in one spot. I've tried to stay away from reviews. Like I generally try to do that before we talk about it. I'm sure a lot of people have made this similarity, but like it was hard not to think about like 12 Angry Men while watching this. Just like just this democratic process going on for these people that don't have a voice. You know, it's kind of cool to see that. Like this is the only way they're going to get heard is amongst each other. You know, like there's one funny part where she's like, oh, we could ask the men to leave, you know, then that woman's like, I don't even ask them to open the curtains. Like, I don't ask them to do it. Like, we're going to ask them to leave. You know, and everyone just starts laughing. It's like, yeah, obviously that's not an option. So we've got to figure it out between ourselves. But I think the unexpected moments of humor there really hit me. Like some of them I can't recall off the top of my head right now, but there were definitely moments in there where it's just like, oh my God. Like, I think, I forget, I think it's Claire Foy or someone who's like, she's like fucking off, and the other girl's like, I think you should just fuck off. You know? Like, it was kind of funny. I also, I think going into it, thought it was like a period piece of sorts. But honestly, only for like 5 minutes, because then at one point someone walked by and they were in Tivas and socks, and I was like, wait, when is this? You know, like it kind of threw me off. Like those are Tivas for sure, like without a doubt. And then, you know, August, is that his name? Is that Ben Winshaw's here?
Ben Winshaw.
He's writing with like a clear big pen, you know. I'm like, okay, maybe this is sooner. And then the census finally comes. It's like, oh, this is like probably 2009, because they're taking the census for 2010. So it's like, oh, okay, so we're like, you know, the terms, I'm like, oh, this is like the first year of Obama's presidency. Got it. Okay, this is like the time frame. And it's just crazy to think about, like, this isn't that long ago, and what these people are going through is just nuts. Like I know back east, there's like a big I don't know, like a population, I guess, with the Amish and stuff like that. You know, there are these cultures. I'm in Utah, so there are a lot of people who have like joined the FLDS church. You know, they're basically like still polygamous. So like none of these outfits really looked that weird to me, because like we would go by them on the way to school, and it's just like, oh man, what a way to live, you know. So it was interesting to see that reflected on there, and not done necessarily in like a twist way, like The Village or something. You know, it's just like, no, this is just like what it is. But I mean, all the performers here are wonderful. Like everyone does a great job. As I'm watching, it was interesting to think about like why each person got cast for each role. I think everyone did a great job in their performance. And then the process, like you said, Rachel, just like people sticking by their guns at the beginning, and then seeing how they slowly kind of like come around to the realization, like, okay, no, this isn't, you know, the option. Obviously, this is a spoiler podcast, so hopefully everyone has seen this, that we're going to like talk about this stuff here, but to all get to the point where it's like, we have to leave. Like, that's really the only option here. Like, even if we stay and fight, they're never going to forgive us. Like, what are we going to do? You know? So just seeing their whole thought process there, but I think it was shot really beautifully. I liked having some of the kind of the flashback scenes that kind of explain what's going on. And honestly, some of the cut scenes, you know, these women waking up and then just like blood in bed. And it's like, it's not necessarily like told to us exactly what happens, but we kind of figure it out as it's going on. Like, oh shit, okay, this is what's going on. So I know we'll talk about some of those moments later, but it sounds weird to say I had a good time with this movie, but like it's a good movie, you know, like it was just like, oh, this is really well done. I think your point is super valid, Rachel. Like the wrong director or the wrong actors or script, like this is a bad movie. This is just like, I don't know if it's pretentious or what. It's just like, oh my God, you guys, you know, whatever. But this was handled so well. I'm like, this is a great film, you know, and I get why it's here in the top 10 for, you know, Best Picture.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I went to go see this movie, I went on a Sunday afternoon, like literally at noon, 12 o'clock. And I was the youngest person in my theater, literally, excuse me, by like 40 years, 45 years. It was basically all really old people. And I was the only dude. It was all women. It was all ladies. So I think that's an interesting, you know, kind of maybe snapshot of like who was watching this movie. So Oscar implications potentially to keep in mind. It's really disappointing because I loved this movie. I went in with no expectations. I had seen a trailer, obviously. I had listened to the big picture talk about it, and so I knew the census bit, and I was like, okay, I kind of know what, like, where this is set and where this is going. But I had no idea the emotional toll that this movie would like take on me. And you know, you talk about, Rachel, like moments that build to something, like when we build to that final act and they make that decision and like that man comes back to the colony and they're like, we have to go. Like that was so stressful, but it was so empowering. And it was so like so many things like wrapped into one. It's like, oh my God, you guys did it. Like we're here and you're making that decision and you're acting on it. And like, that is so cool. But like, if you don't move your asses, it's not going to happen. Like you got to keep going. And so to see that played out is really, really impressive. My first thought after I got done with this was Sarah Polley definitely should have been nommed for director. 100%, like no doubt about it, especially in a year in which they did not nominate any female directors, which I think is fascinating and a very poor choice by the Academy. This is in the conversation for Best Picture. I don't think it's like actually in the conversation. We'll break that down and see if any of us feel any different. But the score was sublime to me, and there is we'll talk about true cinema in a moment, but there are some scenes at the end that do involve Ben Whishaw, and it does feel a little like sacrilegious to be like, Ben Whishaw really was great in this movie about women, which, you know, it like Jesse Buckley.
My favorite part about women talking was the guy.
It was the guy.
Part of this movie.
It was the man.
Hey,
like
you
Jesse
have Paddington in your movie, though. I mean, yeah, it's understandable.
That's true. Like Jesse Buckley, incredible. Like lights out, does what she does best, which is monologues, and monologues very, very well. And this movie works on so many different levels. But Ben Whishaw, I don't think I've ever seen anybody cry maybe more authentically, like in a film. Like Ben Whishaw cried, I cried. Like that was pretty much how it worked for me. And I saw what was coming and like things that the actions that he took, and it still got to me. It still hit me. And I think it just all worked very, very well for me. I gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, and I am very excited to rewatch this when it comes out on VOD, hopefully very, very soon. By the time this pod drops, it'll be out in theaters for about 50 days. So we're coming right up on that kind of window there where it might start hitting VOD. We have a lot of really popular, name-worthy, powerful actresses in this movie. Rachel, who was your favorite in this movie? If you had to pick one, and it can't be Ben Whishaw because it's a movie about women, who would you pick as your favorite actress?
I would have to say, out of like their arcs, I would say that Claire Foy was probably my favorite, just because seeing her motivation and kind of like the break, while like Jessie Buckley's was great, and like I understand why everyone was like, yes, Oscars for Jessie Buckley. Hers is more of like a one-note decision, and like it made like you needed that kind of character within this conversation. But I think Claire Foy's arc and kind of seeing like how she broke and why she broke and kind of all of her decision making, I liked that journey a lot more. So like, yes, Jessie Buckley deserves her flowers, deserves an Oscar. She's not nominated, but like she was so good.
Yeah.
I understood that conversation, but I think I like Claire Foy's journey a little bit more.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
What about you, Ben?
I the person that captured me the most, honestly, we just kind of joked about it earlier, but the woman with the horses, her name's Sheila McCarthy. Like I
Yes.
liked her. Like I thought she was
Greta.
great, you know? I really enjoyed, she provided some of the humor, like the second time she tries to bring it up in the middle of this really tense fight and everyone starts laughing like this is not the time for a story, you know? But I liked her. She felt really like kind of centered, and her character just, I don't know, I connected with it a lot, at least like her perspective, just like trying to do its best while also like taking care of her own children, you know, that are there and all that kind of stuff. So I think she gave a great performance. Also, like, was just one of the longest necks I've ever seen. Like, it's amazing. You know, like looking at her, I was like, oh man, this woman has such a long neck. And I think it's fantastic. It's not like, this is just an observation, but just like watching her, is like, holy shit, that woman has such a long neck. That's fantastic. So, yeah, for a couple reasons, shout out to Sheila McCarthy.
Wow. The double recognition. Very impressive.
Double.
Yeah, you know, I will say, there was kind of a moment in the film where, and I think it was Claire Foy's character, I'm not sure, where somebody says basically like, why is she laughing? And then somebody responds and says, sometimes people laugh when they want to cry or laugh as hard as they wish they could cry or something like that. Just fucking broke me. Just like, and I was just like, God, that 100% right. Like that is brutal to watch and to listen and to see that taking place. And that Sheila's character kind of, you know, in a similar boat, like bringing up the horses all the time and giving everybody a good laugh, like really nice tension release for this conversation, this 100-minute women talking conversation.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with the token. I'm going with Jessie Buckley. And I particularly like how she was just so consistently adamant during basically the entire film of like, no, like we're not taking action. We're not leaving. We're not doing this. And I thought her timing and her tone was really pretty impeccable when it came to like butting in on other people's comments and conversations, and the little remarks that she would make just made her character feel so authentic and so like well-rounded and wholehearted and what she firmly believed. And then she gets a wonderful monologue to kind of break that and figure out exactly how she does feel. I thought she was incredible. She has been nominated for an Academy Award before, unfortunately not for this one. I do think a movie like this that sees so many kind of main characters definitely suffers at the foot of the Academy, because who do you put up for Best Supporting? Who do you put up for Best Lead? What do you do in that kind of a situation? And it's kind of a zero-sum game, which really sucks because I think everybody kind of put out a very, very good, impressive role in this movie and impressive performance. One person we didn't talk about, Frances McDormand, is in this movie. She is a co-producer of this film, I believe. So she was a big selling point in the trailers. Like, she's in the trailer. Like, Frances McDormand, Academy Award winner, is in this movie. And there were so many moments in this movie where it's like, oh my God, someone's walking up the stairs. It's Frances McDormand. She's going to make her entry and it's going to be wild. And then we just never saw anything from her. Underutilized, miscast. Did she even like need to be in this movie? Rachel, do you have thoughts on Frances?
Not really. I mean, I like Frances McDormand fine. I think more about her denim outfit that she wore to the Tonys when I think about Frances McDormand than like anything else.
Fire.
But I think on the one hand, yes, it needed her because it's like, yes, I love Claire Foy. I love Jessie Buckley. I love Ben Whishaw. I would have watched this movie for those three. However, I don't think, and like Sarah Polley, I hadn't really seen anything she had done before, I don't think. And so I think it needed someone like Frances McDormand for people to like pay attention, even though she's barely in it. But sometimes that's like the best. I think about like when Ryan Reynolds did the whole press tour for Life, and he's in that movie for 10 minutes, literally. And then his character is no longer in the movie. So it's happened so many times with a bunch of guys that like, yeah, let Frances McDormand be the selling point of a movie, and then she's only in it for 10 minutes.
Yeah. She was the Drew Barrymore screen. She's like, we get to the beginning, and then she's like gone. Like, all right, cool. I guess like it's here like 1 minute at the end. I don't know. I mean, part of me thought like with her being a producer, she just like hand plucked the role. She's like,
Maybe,
I'll be
yeah.
there. I just like,
Just
I don't
as
want to do
little
a
as
ton of
possible.
stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, give me that one. I want to be Scarface. Like, that's what I want to do. So, but I mean, I thought she was good. I think you need someone in that role that's believable and that has impact, because it is such a like impact per minute kind of role. Like, she's really got to
Yeah.
get it across in the immediate initial discussion. Like, no, fuck this. Like, we shouldn't do anything. We just need to be glad that we're here. She realizes it's not going to go that way. She's like, all right, I'm out of here. It's like, oh man, like that's one of the three families is gone now. And it holds more weight, I think, because we know Frances, you know, it's just like, oh, okay, that's insane. And that leaves you wondering, like, is she going to come back? Because there's that one shot with her and her, you know, daughter and grandchild. And then it like pans to the barns, like, oh, maybe she's going to go back. And then just like, it never happens. So, maybe underutilized, but I just kind of think she was just like, I just want this role. This role seems pretty chill for a movie like this. I just want to do this.
Yeah, you know, I'm curious that if she was in this movie anymore, if it kind of would have like overstretched or overpowered some of the other people, if her screen presence might have been maybe too much to kind of contain in this film when we were so focused on the other women. And what I did enjoy the most about this is you have a couple of the older women that are so pivotal to this movie that are kind of like no names. Like, they're not stars. Like, they're not big people that we would know, but they just held their own against all these really impressive actresses. And so I wonder if Frances McDormand would have kind of ruined that mojo maybe a little bit. I did like that she was in this movie. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, I want to do true cinema moment so we can talk about particular moments of this movie. Usually on our A24 pod, we use this to kind of like break down the entire movie, and then we choose one at the very end. I have a really short list here just to kind of like remember some pivotal moments in this movie. And then we'll each pick our true cinema moment. You could pick it for any reason: funny, sad, beautiful, like beautifully shot, whatever you want. The few that I have on here for this movie: the initial voting process with the X's. We get some really, really nice camera work around here, and we learn that they're all voting and figuring out what to do, and that's kind of like our very first introduction into this world. The story of Melvin and how she suffers a miscarriage and never speaks to anyone but children, and that obviously plays a very pivotal role in the film as a whole. We mentioned the census taker coming by for the 2010 census, playing just a heater of a song, and Ben Winshaw singing it to himself in the barn, which I thought was hilarious. When the husband comes back into town, I mentioned that earlier. And then August, Ben Winshaw's character, giving the gun over, is kind of a really pivotal third act moment where we realize he is also not on the same page as all the other guys in the colony, and he is kind of the sacrificial lamb of the males to make this happen and to allow for this action to be taken. Rachel, we'll let you go first. If you've got to pick a true cinema moment, what's the one scene that you're going with?
I think I got to do the census only because, like my other moments are all go. Like, I love the Rooney Mara and Ben Whishaw stuff. I think that's kind of sweet. But I think the census moment is when you realize, like, if you weren't paying attention, you just like, because I know a lot of people watch movies and we just tune out and we're like, yeah, this is a movie from like 1885.
Yeah.
And then like but when you hear 2010, you hear a song that you know, you're like, what's going on? And I think that is the moment that you're like, oh no, this is fact. Like this is about women who have the right to vote, have their own bodily, well, at that point, had their own bodily autonomy, could do what they wanted, and then are forced to kind of, you as the viewer, forced to kind of reconcile everything you just saw into like the rest of the movie. And so I think that is the moment that kind of brings it all together.
Yeah. I like that. So I'm gonna do a little quick honorable mention, just to go over my A24 brain, that Ethan like got into my head, just waiting for something bad to happen, because like the narrator starts out by, you know, explaining it. Like, we know that she's telling the story to Rooney Mara's child. And it's like, this story starts, or this story ends before you were born, and like hints to the fact that her grandma isn't alive anymore. You know, it's like, oh, okay, so grandma's dying at some point. And there's the scene where she's on the stairs and Ben Winshaw is like which I was like, hold on both hands, and I was like, are we going to watch her just like fall over and die right now? Like, is this how this is going to go? Like, it's just like the dumb A24 brain's like, what's going to happen here? Like, is this how she dies? Like, this seems so out of character for this movie, Dude. But like, we've been told she's going to die before this baby's born. And she's like, I don't know, 5-6 months, across like or along. And I don't know. That kind of stuck out to me. It's like, holy shit.
A24 will ruin you, dude. Hosting an A24 pod will ruin you.
It really will. It's like, is he going to kick her? Like, is that what's going to happen here? But my moment, like, it's a little bit longer, but it is that last like fight between Rooney Mara and Jessie Buckley. When Rooney's like, oh, you're going to stay here and fight? Like, you never fight for anything, whatever. Them going back and forth, and Jessie just being like, you're going to keep that kid? Like, it just like talking about how like keeping that child that you don't want, that you didn't choose to have, that's going to be a symbol for like the anger and all that kind of stuff that went into it, that kind of a thing. And then as it goes on, like we're watching Jessie Buckley's daughter realize like, oh, that's how I was also conceived. Like I wasn't wanted. Like, does she just see me as a reflection of like the anger from her husband, from Klaus or whatever? So it's a really long moment, but all the way up to the daughter walking over and just like kneeling down and putting her head in her lap and stuff. And just like, that's going to be hard. It's just like, you probably don't think about that much. And then she's sitting here just saying like, we never wanted any of these kids. Like, these men just do this to us. Like, we didn't choose any of this. And then like to say that in front of your kids, like, oh, okay, shit, that probably maybe hits harder than I was anticipating. But also, I mean, we haven't talked a ton about Rooney Mara, but she just gives like such a stellar performance here. I'm curious how she was so smart. Like if they can't read and write, like she knew all the stuff Ben Whishaw did, which is like great, but it's just like, how is she learning all this? And if they're not like teaching them or whatever. But I love the character. I love their dynamic. And just like that scene of her and Jessie Buckley going back and forth, I think that was great.
Yeah. I feel like this movie is hard because it is made up of lots of incremental scenes and like pivotal moments, obviously, but I don't really think one necessarily like works as a standalone, right? It's all one large tapestry and it tells a very massive story where, contradictory. We talked about Avatar last week and we talked about our true cinema is like, you could fire that up on YouTube and just have a ball with like 7 minutes of Avatar. And I think if you fire up a particular scene of women talking on YouTube eventually, like personally, I would just get sucked in and just go like watch the whole movie just because like I know what's going to happen next and I know where we're going and that ability to like draw me in. So this is kind of tough, but I mentioned earlier Ben Whishaw as August in this movie, and there's a particular moment, I think it was like in the final 25 or 20 minutes where the women have left, they have gone, and August is saying goodbye to Rooney Mara's character and says like, I love you, and then one of the older women turns back and says like, oh, she loves everybody, she'll love you forever. And August he's just bawling his eyes out, and like that was just so heartbreaking for me to watch him know like he is a conduit to this massive change within their colony, a massive historical moment, but he has to stay behind. He has to do the minutes, he has to do the ledger and the pictures and keep track of this historical moment. And that leads to my real true cinema moment, which is when he's writing the list, right? And he's asked, can you write a list of everything that is good and everything that is great, and to help kind of take his mind off of these tragedies and what is happening. And he writes all these things, and we get these wonderful, just beautiful montages of sounds and things going on within the colony and like truly great things. And then at the end, he writes women, and I was like, I saw it coming 15 minutes ago as soon as he started this list, but it fucking ruined me because it's because of the way it's set up. And I was just like, that was immaculate. Like, it was just so phenomenal. And like, I was so invested in that, and I knew he was going to do it, and it still just hit me so freaking hard. And it was so good. I just love that moment. I think it is so powerful. And I think like you spend 80 minutes building to that, and you get that. And like, that's the payoff, is that you understand why women is on that list. You understand the tragedy and the heartbreak and the pain behind writing that word on that list, and how they got to that moment. So that would be for me. I think there's some really, really, really good scenes in this movie. Any other particular scenes you want to talk about before we move on to best adapted screenplay through the ages? there anything anybody has?
I mean, the other moment that really sticks out to me is like when you see, you're like when Claire Foy kind of has, I keep talking about Claire Foy, but when Claire Foy has that moment when her daughter is sick, and because it's like the whole time they're arguing essentially because like if they only had daughters, they all would have left.
Yeah.
But what a main talking point for a lot of them are like, how are we supposed to leave our sons? Like, we can teach them to be better and all that kind of stuff. But like Claire Foy sees like what has already happened to her very young daughter. I think this kid's like 4 or 5. And like and knows what's going to happen. And like that scene is just so powerful, but she's so like you see it, and like you see her realization in it. And it just, that for me stayed with me the most. Like out of everything, it's like, yes, it's a one setting movie. There are moments that happen and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Like I watched it a month or 2 ago, or whatever it was. I was like, I forgot about that because it was just that one moment. But like that has not left. Like every time I think about the movie, that is what I think about, because that's the most compelling to me, is because she is like, no, like there's no going back. Like I've realized exactly what needs to happen, and then that's it. And I just think that to me it's very depressing, but it is great imagery of like, seeing the catalyst for a woman to make the changes that she has to make.
That's that's really interesting. I mean, that kind of ties in. The only one I thought about too was obviously him giving over the gun was really interesting. She's like, don't kill yourself, but it's just like, oh man, this move was done like kind of twofold, it's like he's taking the possibility of ending his life out of his hands, but also helping protect the women that are leaving. We just realized just how depressed he is that she's leaving, which is nuts. But also with the Claire Foy thing, when August asked about the son, he's like, oh, he's going. He's like, oh, really? He decided he changed his mind. And like Claire Foy just doesn't say anything. Then earlier we saw her like spray him kind of with that like pesticide tranquilizer thing to knock him out. And just like drug him basically and force him to go with them. And it was such an interesting way, I feel like, to end that character's thing where like we've just spent an hour and 30 minutes talking about how these women throughout their entire lives had no agency, didn't get to choose anything or whatever, and were just forced to do stuff. And then at the very end, like she kind of does the same thing to her son just to make him come along, like for his own well-being. I mean, I don't fault her for that at all, but she's like, oh, it's such an interesting like dynamic there that she had to then do what they've been fighting against this whole time just so she could have her whole family there. Just really interesting. And I think you kind of see it on her face, like how much it kind of pained her, but it was also just like no choice. Like that was the thing she had to do. So I thought all that was just like super interesting. And I still wish he would have kicked the old lady off the ladder, but whatever, that's for part 2.
Would have taken a real A24 pivot.
More women talking.
More women talking.
Those women, they be talking.
Women talking, ... again, exclamation point.
Look who's talking to, these women.
These women.
I like that.
And I'm just curious. So this is in the conversation for Best Picture. It is one of the 10. We are now about 6 weeks out. About like 4.5 or 5 weeks out from the Oscars. We're talking about March 12th. What are the possibilities that this sees a late surge? This, to me, it's just on the outside. It's just right. One of the 5 through 10 that got nommed, either because it was directed by a woman, it's about women, it stars women, and they had to have something kind of check that box, unfortunately. The Academy really feels like they went in that direction this year with like, cool, we've done some really good things the last 2 years. Now we'll just do the bare minimum and check those boxes, but not have that be a part of the serious conversation. Could we see any late surge? Rachel, you think there's anything behind women talking? Do you want to see it win, I guess? I'm just curious.
No. I want Everything Everywhere All at Once to win. That's my movie.
Hard to argue.
It's been my movie since I saw it in a press screening. I think like it came out in March, right? I think I saw it in like February. And came out of that movie and was like, this is I'm obsessed with this movie. Like maybe it's just me because like I realized it was Gyo Kwan, who I've loved since I was a kid. It's Michelle Yeoh kicking ass. Like I was like, there's so many elements of that movie that I was like, oh, maybe I just like this because of who I am, and then to see throughout the year how many people were like, no, this movie's perfect, it's so good. Everything else in that category, despite my own feelings on those movies, don't matter. It is Everything Everywhere All at Once this year. And if it doesn't win, then I'm going to be angry.
I'm gonna burn
Because
this place to the ground.
yeah, there's no reason that it should not win.
Yeah.
And like the only movie I could like maybe see even beating it would be I don't think Tar would beat it. I don't think Tar would beat it. No, because I think The Fabelmans. I feel like The Fabelmans is better than Tar. So like if a movie was going to beat Everything Everywhere All at Once, it would be The Fabelmans, and I don't think it should. And I love The Fabelmans. I don't think it should. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once should.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Tar's fine.
Yeah,
Rachel, who invited you on this podcast? What are we doing? Tar is fine.
No, I thought like going into it like months ago, the Fabelmans were just going to take everything. So I'm like, it's Spielberg doing his life story. Like they're going to eat this shit up. But then Everything Everywhere is like, oh, I'm glad it's actually performing better than expected. I don't know if this has like an actual chance. Like it would have to be, I honestly feel like it'd be a Coda level of shock for it to win. Like, oh shit. Like the fact that she wasn't nominated for director, I think plays into it pretty big. Like if she had been nominated for director, then I'd be like, okay, maybe this is in their top 5. But as we've talked about, like with some of the other movies in the past, it's just like, this feels like a 6 through 10 slot filler. Unfortunately, like it's a great movie, but I don't know that this would have made it if we just had 5 nominees. But yeah, I'll be kind of shocked to see if it wins. I don't know that I'd be mad if it won Adapted Screenplay. Like I think I'm trying to think of what else is it nominated for. So it's Adapted Screenplay and just Best Picture. Okay, yeah, but I mean, it's up
against Glass Onion.
Yeah, exacing. It's
like, Glass Onion stand, huh?
And Top Gun, you know, maybe that's the one they're going to give Top Gun.
Oh yeah, you have a magnifying glass. Oh, that's bitching. That's so
like
cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's Glass Onions.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I have on my predictions is Glass Onion, but that's like the only thing. Like maybe they'll do that, but I just don't know.
See, I think that is a precarious situation for Glass Onion and Top Gun Maverick because they get through on that loophole of being sequels, right? Like a lot of people that are not in this niche circle that we are in that watch the Oscars and know the rules of the Academy Awards don't necessarily understand, like, why is Glass Onion up for, like, Adapted Screenplay? That's not a book. I can't read that. So I think that's interesting, and I'm curious where the Academy goes on that. I personally, I see Women Talking taking the Adapted Screenplay. But again, that's tough because the Academy likes Knives Out. The Academy likes Rian Johnson and likes it when he wins things and when he is successful. And yeah, again, with the Best Picture race, it would just take a really massive surge, I think, to see anything out of this. And it feels to me like and I don't live in LA, I don't live in New York, I don't live in a major market, so I'm not seeing any of these, FYC ads that are probably plastered on billboards across major cities. But it just feels like the team behind it is like, we got nominated for Best Picture, we'll slap that on the Blu-ray cover, and that's pretty sweet for this movie. Like, that's kind of where they're at. I don't think in a year like this, with Everything Everywhere, with Tar, with Banshees, with Fabelmans, like, I think you're just too deep. I think it's just too far out of the conversation.
Yeah, this is a movie that, like, and I feel like it was, I don't know, if this movie came out in like 2009,
15 years ago,
and whatever, would have really, like, that it would have been a contender for everything. But it is just like, I love the Banshees as much as Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't even think it's going to come close to winning awards. I think like maybe Martin McDonagh might win for screenplay, but like I think there's just every category has some, like, it's literally like this.
Yeah.
The person who's here is just right above like everyone else. And so like I would have loved for Brendan Gleeson or Barry to win, but that's Ke-Huy Quan's winning it. I don't care what anyone says. And it's like the same with this. It's like I feel like Jessie Buckley would have been in that category. But thankfully, someone got Stephanie Hsu and put her in Best Supporting is where she belonged. But Angela Bassett's going to take it out. It's like everything that I'm like, I'm so happy got nominated. You're not going to win that category, though. That's going to so-and-so.
Yeah, I totally agree on a lot of that. Okay, so every single week we talk about a new category within the Academy Awards, and we talk about the history of it. We maybe bring up some of our favorites throughout the years. This week we are doing Best Adapted Screenplay. Obviously, Women Talking is up for Best Adapted Screenplay. It is against Top Gun, Maverick, All Quiet on the Western Front, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, and Living, which is I think one of the more fascinating categories this year that you could kind of say is potentially a toss-up more so than other categories for sure. I don't think anything is really locked in on this. A lot of people have been, touting the praises of Top Gun Maverick for months and months, saying it could win Best Adapted. But again, Kaczynski does not get nominated for Best Director. We don't see the Top Gun Maverick love in any of the other awards. So we'll see kind of how all this plays out. I am curious as we go through the years to see some of your guys' picks for Best Adapted Screenplay. When I was going through them, I realized I haven't seen a lot of these winners, honestly. Like, a lot of them are just like bangers that I have not gotten to, which like I feel terrible about, but it's a reality. I gotta be honest.
I literally just looked them up and was like, oh yeah, a lot of the movies that I love the most are on this list.
This is
like,
terrible.
I literally just was like, yeah, I love a lot of these.
I've outed myself. I'm not a real film guy. I just like watch the movies we talk about on the pod, and that's all I do around here. No, I did watch Magic Mike XXL last night. So look, I'm crossing cinema off the list one by one. It's just a deep list, right?
You watched Joe Manganiello. Right?
Yeah.
Steal the song I always said if I ever had a stripper song, it would be that song. It's closer to my 9-inch nail.
Oh my God. Just that needle drop just sent me, and that whole scene is unreal.
Yeah, I feel
like I gotta watch these now.
Dude, well, I had to watch it before I go see Magic Mike's Last Dance by myself on Thursday. That's going to be a really interesting experience. Can't wait for that. And then I'm seeing Titanic like 12 hours or like 18 hours later.
I need to get tickets for Titanic.
It'll be my first time watching Titanic as an adult. Apparently, I watched it all the time as a kid, and we had like the double VHS, so like we would like run it back all the time. So I'm really excited to see what that 24-hour stretch brings to my life. Okay, Rachel, we'll start with you because we've started everything with you this time. Best Adapted Screenplay through the years. Any winners you want to call out? Any snubs, losers, anything worthy of note on your end?
Okay, well, one of the snubs I think also was the same year that a favorite won. Oh no, it was just a good year. Oh yeah, no, a favorite one. So like Greta with Little Women, obviously wish she would have won. But I believe that was the same year. It was either Black Klansman or Jojo
Rabbit. Yeah.
Jojo Rabbit. I love Jojo. And Jojo's like that.
I have seen
that
Jojo.
book, reading Caging Skies, and then seeing Jojo Rabbit. I was like, no, I get it though. Like, I love Jojo Rabbit. So that one, I really loved. Obviously, I'm a Social Network girly because I was a teen on the internet.
We finally agreed on something. I feel like this is like weeks in a row here where guests have just like not agree with me. Jamie a couple weeks ago was just like really fanning my fire. So Rachel, we did it. We're best friends again.
Social Network, yeah. Well, I'm a Fincher girl. I love David Fincher. Zodiac is one of my favorite movies.
Are you excited for The Killer this year? Are you excited?
I did not know that existed, and then the big trailer drop happened, and my boss messaged me. Someone had pitched The Killer, and he was like, "You want to do a review on that, right?" And I was like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, obviously, yes, obviously, I want to be on Michael Fassbender, David Fincher, and serial killers. Yes, thank you,
winner."
But yeah, I love A Social Network. I love One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest a lot. And I'm just like scrolling through all of these. I recently watched Silence of the Lambs, and by recently I mean like last year.
Nice.
So a lot of these I'm like, yeah, they should. No Country for Old Men, yeah, it's not my favorite Cormac McCarthy book, but it's a good adaptation of that book. I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't know what a lot of these were up against. Oh, and Moonlight, obviously. I didn't realize Moonlight was adapted until right now. But yeah,
I mean, those are all solid. I think all three of us here are big on Social Network for sure. That was an amazing run. I'm going to shout out just a couple here. LA Confidential for writing the one movie that I like Russell Crowe in, so I have to give them some props. Oh no.
How dare you insult The Nice Guys? in front.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Nice Guys rules, man.
I guess The Nice Guys is good. All right. It wrote one of the two movies that I like Russell Crowe in. I forget about that movie, but yeah, that is a good one.
I can never forget it.
Let's see. Coming by Your Name 2017. I enjoyed that. Obviously, The Godfather and Return of the King kind of winning like the culmination award for all of the, Lord of the Rings stuff. And then just to shout out one of my favorite movies of all time. One of the funniest wins too, I think. But Casablanca won in 1943, but it won because Warner Brothers bought the rights to a stage play called Everybody Comes to Rick's, but they never made the stage play. So it's like an adapted screenplay based on something that was never made. Exist. So it's like the story existed and then they made it into a movie. I'm like, that's a really interesting way to win adapted. It's just like, yeah, someone wrote a play. We'll buy the rights to it, but we're not going to make the play. We want to make it a movie. It's like, all right, cool. So yeah, one of my top 3 movies of all time. So I got to shout out Casablanca.
I'm raising my hand.
Oh yeah,
yes,
please.
Go ahead.
Rachel.
First of all, Ben, same. I love Casablanca very much. But I did realize this is my platform to complain about the fact that my best adapted screenplay for this year got no recognition at all during the award circuit because it is Bones and All. I read that book, and the movie Bones and All does an amazing job adapting that into something that was a young adult book into something that is just above and beyond what I thought they could have done. Like, I think Luca, and I'm so sorry, I forget who did the screenplay with him, but like that adaptation is just so good. Like, if you read the book and see what they were working with and what they ended up creating with this movie is just, I'm obsessed with it. And so I was really upset that it got snubbed everywhere. I was like, I think it's so good. And I love Call Me By Your Name. I think I read the book and then saw the movie, and I think that it is a beautiful adaptation, but I like Bones, and I think Bones and All is, Call Me By Your Name is pretty much to the page what you were getting. Like, it was like a very truthful adaptation, where Bones and All like took a lot of liberties and changed a lot of things that I didn't really like in the book. And so it makes me sad. It's like I loved it so much. I wish it got more love.
That's tough. Maybe the Academy's not willing to admit they're pro cannibalism quite yet. I don't know if they're on that level. I think we're still trying to get to the like, let's nominate women kind of a thing, but hopefully soon. Yeah. Hopefully.
They saw Timothy Chalamet in those very ripped jeans and were like, we can't condone this. We
cannot support.
Yeah.
Cannot support. Okay, I have a list here, and a couple of them, obviously I have The Social Network on here. I have The Godfather Part 2 from 1974. I think The Godfather in 72 and then Wins Part 2 in 74 are probably two of the greatest, screenplays of all time, to take what was already established and then change it and make it an even more in-depth and more impressive story is fantastic. The Big Short, winning in 2015. I fucking love The Big Short, and I've never met another human being who loves The Big Short. Nobody likes that movie. I like that movie a lot, and it's in my top 4 on Letterboxd, and it won Best Adapted Screenplay. So let's fucking go.
Top 4 on Letterboxd?
Hell yeah, it is, Ben.
Wow, I did not know that.
Listen, this is why I tweeted the other day. I said, look, where's everybody stand on changing up your top 4s on Letterboxd? And I got like tons of people to interact and tell me what to do, and I still can't do it. I can't, because I feel like The Big Short is true to me, and nobody likes The Big Short. Are you looking at my top 4, Rachel? Is that why you're making a disgusted face?
I was looking at what it was up against.
Yeah, this is true.
Angry.
Let's see.
What did it win against?
So it was up against
Room, The Martian, and Carol.
They gave
what are you gonna do?
Short. All right.
What are you gonna do, man? What are you gonna do? Adam McKay and Michael Lewis. I mean, Michael Lewis had some previous Academy love, I think, with Moneyball. I can't remember how Moneyball did at the Oscars. Do we know? We don't
either,
know.
But
I don't remember.
So.
But it has Brad Pitt. It's very, very good.
Wait, Ethan, now I need to know what your top 4 are. What are your top 4 on Letterboxd?
My top 4 on Letterboxd? I feel like I'm walking into a trap here, if I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like I'm getting ready set up for slander. Look, okay, I'm gonna pull it up so I don't. I just read what's on the screen. Look, I know what mine are. I just okay, La La Land, Uncut Gems, The Big Short, and Before Sunset, which is a wonderful segue into my 2 movies that should have won, probably not should have won, but I would have wanted to win, Before Sunset and Before Midnight, both up for Best Adapted, both lost to other movies that were definitely more deserving, but that sucks that we didn't get any love for those movies. That's all I wanted to say. How do you feel? How do you feel right now? I feel like you're going on a roller coaster of emotions.
I am, because I went to look and see if my own personal all-time favorite, which is on my top 4, favorite movie, which is adapted, was nominated, and it was snubbed in everything, and it makes me very upset.
Wow. What was that?
American Psycho is one of my all-time favorite movies, musicals, just stories in general. I do have a whole stance on, like, if a straight man looks at me and tells me that's his favorite thing, I'm like, I need you to unpack this.
Big red flag.
Why do you like this? I can say that, but why do you like it? Mary Herron made this so palatable for me as a woman. Now I'm thinking about it, I think two of mine are original. I was like thinking of all my Letterboxd stats and trying to figure out what's adapted versus what was original. Because I think Tanya counts as adapted, right? Because it was adapted from interviews conducted.
I think so, yeah.
I think so.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I have
what
two
are
adapted.
your other two?
What are your other two?
It's American Psycho, Zodiac, I, Tanya, and Inside Llewyn Davis. Right, wow. Hell or High Water. Hell or High Water was on there for a while too. Hell or High Water is like number 5. And Moulin Rouge,
so you swap occasionally. You mix these in and out.
It was more that I like rewatched Zodiac and was like, nah, man, Zodiac rules. Zodiac up there.
Nice.
And I think I also like rewatched Inside Llewyn Davis and was like, yes, this is my favorite winter sad movie, and so it's been that way for forever. But
that's good. Ben, what are your top 4? Give it to us since we're
roundtabling. I have no idea why I'm offering this up, but Inside Llewyn Davis is one of my 2 least favorite Coen Brothers movies, along with Raising Arizona. Yeah,
this is madness.
Those are my top. Those are my top 3. Because my favorite is actually The Big Lebowski, but Inside Llewyn Davis means a lot to me, so that's why it's on my list.
Yeah, I fell asleep during Llewyn Davis, and I woke up and like Adam Driver was there. Like, what's going on right now? So
please, Mr. Kennedy. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
Part.
So, I just I can't get into either of those movies, but maybe I'll try it again. Let's see. My top 4 are obviously my number 1 movie of all time, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. We've talked about 2 of them already. They're on my list, Casablanca and The Godfather. Like that wraps up. That was my top 3 forever. And then the newest entry, the only one I've ever changed on my Letterboxd, is Everything Everywhere All at Once. So those make my Letterboxd top 4.
You know, I was strongly considering tossing Tar in my top 4 because people were like, it should be a recent movie that you really, really like. And I I was like, yeah, Tar fucking rules. So maybe you'll see it on there sooner or later.
After Sun is a tragedy. Like that's insane.
You know, it's just part of it. You got to keep the mantra going. You got to keep the energy, even through Letterboxd here. Okay, so lots of good adapted wins throughout the years. Lots of things we would have loved to see get more love, even this year. So again, I will state, I think Best Adapted is probably one of the most up in the air categories that we will see this year at the Oscars, and we'll see what happens. Rachel, thanks so much for coming on the pod, for talking about women talking, for representing women everywhere, all across the globe. That's our tagline for the episode. Rachel, I am women. We had a blast. If people want to find you, where can they find you at? Social media? Where do you write about movies? Give us the download.
You can follow me on Twitter at Rachel Leishman. On Instagram, it's Rachel_Leishman, because some asshole out there won't
the worst.
Get rid of their account. My last name is not that regular. I don't know why you all are keeping it. You can read my stuff on the Mary Sue and Collider, where I do some news stuff, and I cover SNL there a lot. And you can listen to me talk about the actor Pedro Pascal on Podro Pascal, and the actor Harrison Ford on the Ford Cast.
Oh, nice. I like that.
So, how did you feel about Pedro Pascal hosting SNL just a couple weeks ago? I feel like that's
I was there.
Yeah.
You were there? What?
I went and I did the standby, and me and my podcast producer with 2 of our friends went, and it was crazy. There were like so many children. I heard some child go, I've been a fan of his since The Bubble. These people do not understand. And I was sitting there like, The Bubble of 2022?
Like 2 years ago? Yeah. That's
Not
crazy.
even. It was last year. And I'm sitting there like, I
Judd
feel
Apatow
ancient.
classic.
I was like, I feel ancient. Like,
wow.
Okay.
Dang.
It was a crazy time, but you can hear me on TV laughing about Yellowstone. There's a joke that Bowen Yang says about Yellowstone, and I laughed, and then I kept laughing because no one else was laughing. And so for a good 30 seconds, my roommate said that that's how she knew I got in, because you could just hear me for 30 seconds.
That's amazing.
Because I just couldn't stop, because I was like, no one else is
That's
laughing.
pretty good.
It was one of my favorite episodes in a while. He did a great job. Like, it was a solid episode. So.
I love that sangria steak sketch so much.
Oh
so
God.
funny. So
funny.
funny.
Yeah, that was fantastic. The one that surprisingly got me, we're just off on a tangent now, but when he comes like out of the coma with his like LA mumble voice or like,
that's not how to sky.
I don't know why that got me so much. Like just so watching him like commit to the bit, you know, it's just like we're watching him every week play Joel, and then like he's doing this fucking weird ass mumble LA. It was fantastic.
LA Mushmouth is what they called it.
Yeah, LA Mushmouth. Yeah, he was awesome. No, thanks again though for coming on. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to talk about it. Obviously, everyone who's listening, we want to know what you think is what are the shot that this has at Best Picture or Adapted Screenplay. You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. We are at 24 minutes of A24. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, where you can see all of our beautiful faces as we talk about I
strongly recommend watching this episode on YouTube strictly for Rachel's reactions to just everything that's being said. Just tells a completely story in its own. It's quite lovely, honestly.
The daggers that came through here electronically when I talked about Inside Llewyn Davis, like, oh shit, like
soul crushing.
I almost turned off my camera.
And Raising Arizona, two movies I love.
Yeah, you doubled down, Ben.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit. And I even said, like, I don't know why I'm offering this up, because I know it's not going to go over well, but I got to put it out there. But no, thanks again though for coming on. Whenever we cover the Coens, we'll hit you up again and we'll talk about that. So So anyways, follow us on YouTube and all those places. I'm Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. And as the legendary and immortal Tom Cruise says, see you at the movies.
Awesome.